Welcome to the TLC Unleashed show, Hollywood Vibes, Sports and Life with your host, Tracy Lynn. This show is brought to you by Quest Nutrition. Cheat clean and make healthy eating fun with Quest Nutrition products. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show tonight. We are here, Hollywood Vibes, Sports and Life with TLC Unleashed, Tracy Lynn Cowan. Live in the studio tonight, we have the one and only Bob White, Grandmaster, 10th degree, black belt. I mean, you have such an amazing career. I cannot wait to talk about everything that you've been doing and your organization. So welcome. It's an honor to have you on my show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Been looking forward to this. So It should be a fun day.
I know, me too. And we've got some books here too to go over and talk about the success of your career. I mean, you go back you've got over 50 years experience.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I've been very fortunate.
Okay.
Yeah, Kempo. I started at a Japanese style, but I came to Kempo in 1966.
Okay.
And that was the Ed Parker system, and I've been with that ever since.
Okay. Tell us for the people that don't know, the viewers and listeners that don't know what Kempo is.
All right. Kempo is basically a Chinese style, but what made Ed Parker really unique is that he tried to innovate and make improvements in the art. Rather than being locked on to a traditional style, he constantly tried to innovate and more adjust it to today's society versus to the old traditional methods.
Okay, amazing. Ed Parker, tell us a little bit about Ed Parker as a person.
Well, he was larger than life. You know, he was really the father of American karate and brought karate to the forefront, and not only in the martial arts community, but in the movie industry. Is really responsible for introducing a lot of different fight scenes and concepts to the Hollywood crowd. And then it just took off, of course.
Yeah.
You know, he introduced Bruce Lee to the American public.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris got his notoriety by winning his tournament in 67 and 68.
Yeah.
And just a lot of careers were launched there.
Yeah.
And he had the big tournament in Long Beach every year, starting in 1964, and it just became the showcase for American karate.
Amazing. How did you get into the sport and into the industry?
Well, I was always an athlete, and I had a great athletic career while in high school, and I was playing college baseball. But before that, when I was 14, I had a high school coach that was teaching at a local health spa. And I got involved with him at the spa and just really liked it. And then when I started getting involved in tournaments, and competition was something that I loved. Yeah. So I just really gravitated toward that. And that's really what kept my interest the first 20 plus years of my training.
And I read too that you had the ability and the opportunity to go play pro baseball. Was that
Well,
correct?
I could have signed a contract right out of high school, but I was really concerned about being drafted into the Army. It was really at the height of the Vietnam War. So if I would have signed the contract, I would not have had a draft deferment, which means I would have been vulnerable to going in. If I would have been drafted, I would have gone, but I certainly didn't want to.
Yeah.
So I had a school deferment, and then as years went on, they had the draft lottery number, and I was like 350. I was going to go after women and children. So at that point is when I became a full-time karate instructor.
Okay. And you have your own studio as well, and that is in Costa Mesa?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had my own school since 1972. It's the only thing I've ever done for a career since high school.
Wow.
And I've been very blessed. You know, I love coaching. I remember what an impact great coaches had on me and my career, and I wanted to be that type of coach. And I think as a kind of a process of studying different coaches, you know, you pick up techniques that really work, and you try to gravitate toward that and you know, utilize their technique. Like at our school, probably John Wooden is quoted more often than Kachin Funakoshi, or in some cases even Ed Parker, just because he was such a great man as well as a great coach.
Okay. And so you were obviously competing in as well. So how did you go in from being a student to being a coach and having your own school? Because a lot of people want to transition to that and don't really know how to.
Well, I was very fortunate when in about 1969, 1970, the Kung Fu television show came out. Then later on, Billy Jack, and the interest in karate just took off. So it became necessary to get more teachers. And because more teachers were needed, it created job opportunities.
Okay.
And so I really started teaching in 1968 while in high school, right out of high school. And because of the necessity, I had an opportunity. I liked it. And it kept me in the studio, which was great because that's how you develop your skills.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to settle for mediocrity. You know, when I played baseball or football, I tried to make it a point to work harder than anybody else. And the fact that I had this chance to be in there was something that I really loved.
Amazing. And a lot of people don't realize how conditioned and how much work it is and how much exercise it is to do, the martial arts and the karate. Is that what you've done to keep in shape and keep healthy over the years?
Well, I really have tried to make it a point. You know, that's, our body's a tool of our mind, so I've really tried to stay in good shape. They're honestly, that's one of the things that I address in my book is there was a period in my life where my lifestyle affected my conditioning and dealing with alcoholic behavior is something that I address. It was one of the demons in my life.
Yeah.
It was alcohol. And then later on, last year, I got 2 different types of cancer.
Yes.
And that kind of were setbacks. But like my doctors were telling me, the fact that I was in good shape really sped my healing process.
Wow.
And for that, I'm truly grateful.
Amazing. Yeah. And congratulations to you on your sobriety. I know you have quite a few years behind you. And I
do now. Yes, I've got 28 years of not drinking, and it's just been life-changing.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, if you don't mind, please, because there's a lot of people, there could be a lot of people in the industry and also out there that do suffer from diseases and illnesses and also, alcoholism and drug addiction and things like that. What were the turning points for you to be able to get through that, and get into sobriety through your career?
Mostly pain, is really what it is. And, you move away from pain and toward pleasure. And when people get to the point where they can't do that anymore, they can't live like that anymore, then major decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
And if there's no pain, there's no necessity to change. Rick Warren, famous pastor in Orange County, talks about don't waste the pain. And the pain could be used to help you make change. And I've seen it over and over again. If there's no pain, there's no change. Because you can rationalize anything. Honestly, before I stopped, hopefully for good, before I stopped 28 years ago, I had stopped many times stating I'll never do this again, only to fall back into the same pattern.
Of course.
But it was explained to me that you never have to feel that way again. All you have to do is not drink. Yeah. So it was a great motivating factor. And plus I had just acts of the Lord bringing people into my life that were so significant that were kind of coaches. Then when I reframed it and I started thinking of it, to be successful in martial arts, you have to be coachable. Successful in any athletics, you have to be coachable. And if you're not, what happens? It normally doesn't work if you're not on the same page. So I became very coachable and I listened to what was suggested and I did those suggestions because I had many years of teaching karate at that point. And I know the people that did the best were people that listened to me, put their guard down and were receptive to the coaching and the lessons. And as a result, they ended up developing their skills. And my skill was pretty simple. All I had to do is suit up and show up and listen to my sponsor. That's who it is.
Yes.
Your coach is a sponsor. And I did that. And I still deal with this gentleman that became my sponsor every week. I had a private with him this morning, actually.
Good.
And he takes lessons from me. Yeah. But in reality, I've learned so many more important things from him. So it's kind of a great trade-off.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that as well. I, made some choices in my life where, you go down the wrong path. And it is so true you either, have pain or pleasure, and we do things in order to gain either one of those.
Sure.
So when you've had enough, you dig back deep. Not a lot of people can get through that. So and again, I do commend you.
Well, thank you. The odds are against you.
Yes.
But the reward is beyond your wildest dreams.
Absolutely. And that's what I like to share with people, because, there are a lot of people suffering out there with things that they are keeping a secret. And, I found the biggest thing to get through any addictions or anything like that is to not keep a secret and uncover it and let it loose, basically.
Correct.
So that you can get help, because, as you said, you have these key people in your life that are helping you and coaching you, whether it's a sponsor in a program, whether it's in a coach in a baseball game, or whether it's a karate instructor or a grandmaster. It's all the same thing, because they've taken their tools from their toolbox and what they've learned in life, and probably a lot of pain as well.
Correct.
And they can carry that on and pass that on to us, and we can also pass that torch on to other people. So it's all about reciprocating and teaching and helping other people to learn and grow.
It is. And that's exactly how it works. It's one alcoholic talking to another. It's a lot easier to take coaching a baseball as an example from somebody that's played the game before. And he has a track record of success and what he did to become successful. And then you gravitate toward that listening and coaching.
Yeah. Do you think if you were still in your active alcoholism that you would be able to get through the cancer like you did?
No. I don't. I think the tools I learned in recovery, the one day at a time concept, because I didn't have just a cancer, I had 2 cancers.
Wow.
In fact, when I was about halfway into the book, and I went in to see my radiologist who had applied all the radiation treatment, and he was telling me, he goes, you had 2 cancers. That's really inspirational. He goes, you ought to think about writing a book. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, he's actually one of the endorsements in the book. But
amazing.
The tools that I learned, and plus, as we talked about who you spend your time with, and I'm very blessed, and I get to spend my life with my wife, who is
Barbara.
Just tremendous. And
Tell us about Barbara.
She's just has been one of the great gifts in my life, and great gift of sobriety. She drinks normally, like one glass of wine. Yeah, exactly. And but she's also an oncology nurse.
Oh, wow.
And so when the cancer was there, she knew how to treat it. Plus, our daughter had Hodgkin's lymphoma when she was younger, so it was not Barbara's first exposure to it, besides just at work, but somebody that she cares about.
Wow.
But she's just the best person I've ever met. Aww. I sincerely mean that.
And how many years of marriage?
About 15 now.
Okay.
We came late in life, but she was a student at the studio, and I developed a tremendous amount of respect for her first. So we had this great friendship, and then after a while, it turned into romance, but the friendship first, and the respect hasn't. They say time exposes or promotes. The longer I know her, the more promoted she is to me, anyway.
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
Well, she's the best.
I love that. And I always ask people that have, 10 plus, 20 plus years of marriage behind them, what is the secret to your successful marriage?
Well, I've been in charge for a long time, like at the studio.
Yes, of course.
It's not a democracy, it's a dictatorship. But in our marriage, it's not. In our marriage, it's a democracy. I don't need to be a boss. I trust her judgment. She trusts my judgment. So we work things out very well. When we had a blended family when we were married, and we took a Christian class called Smart Step Families.
Okay.
And we developed some skills to deal with the other person's children.
Of course.
And it worked out perfect. Like, whenever there was good news to her children, I got to give it. Whenever it was discipline, then she got to do it. And the same thing with my children.
Smart.
So I constantly, and she constantly, was the good person. She's carrying the good message. So it was a great 8-hour class that we took that has saved us a lot of maybe uncomfortable.
Grief.
Well, it could be grief. Fortunately, we never experienced it.
That's great, because blended families are hard. I've experienced it, and
it can be.
And if you're not on the same page, or you don't have an understanding of, but you have to love the children like they're your own.
Yes.
And that's the key thing. And a lot of people are coming from a selfish place. I find, especially when they're coming into a new marriage or relationship, and the kids are involved, you always have to remember to put the kids first, but also have that great solid relationship and respect for everyone.
Correct. And we've really tried to maintain that. We have between us 6 daugers.
Okay,
so,
wow.
I keep going way down the chain.
There's a lot of estrogen in that home.
Oh, there's no
Bob,
question.
You're a strong man.
Well, I get my strength through surrendering. That's how it works.
You have to with that many women around you.
Oh, yeah. They're all great. We have just a great relationship. They all get along real well, and it's been blessed by God.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Tell us about your experience as the referee in the Karate Kid.
Well, it was fun. We had, because our school was really geared toward competition.
Yeah.
We had a great reputation. Mm-hmm. So one of the guys in a recent interview you did, I watched it with Chris Casamassa. He was talking about what an influence Pat Johnson had with him. Pat was the guy that choreographed all the fight scenes in the movie and was the head referee. Well, he got in touch with me because they needed to have a karate tournament that was filmed like 3 days in a row.
Okay.
So what Columbia Pictures did to make sure the kids would come back, instead of giving away trophies, they gave away television sets.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of our kids were walking around, looked like they had just left a riot and were looting. they were loaded up. But while I was down there, Pat came up to me, goes, "Bob, come over. I'm going to make you a movie star." And he asked me to come over and be a referee. And then after the movie was over, I was hired by Columbia Pictures to promote the movie on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Actually, the Southeast, which was perfect because it was all sunny, and Miami and Tampa Bay, and it was just a tremendous experience.
Nice.
Then we were involved in Karate Kid Part 3, and actually the latest one with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. We were involved in some of the promotion with that. So it's been a lot of fun.
Amazing.
Yeah, fun stuff.
What do you love most about being in the martial arts world?
Well, most of it is because I get to be in a position of coaching and having an influence on helping people improve their lives and become better people. Many times with kids throughout the years, I would have them do something and tell them, you're going to come back. You'll thank me when you're older. Is kind of a coin line, but now they do. Now Absolutely. They come back, and I'm working with the grandkids of the children I used to work with, and they come back, and they're just so thankful for their training.
Amazing.
It gives them, it sets goals. It's so much more than fighting.
Yes.
It gives them self-control, improves their image, the way they think of themselves.
Yep. Self-worth, self-confidence, and discipline, and accountability, suiting up and showing up, like we talked about.
Correct.
And it's such an amazing thing. I started martial arts a little later in life, and I found this love for it that I can't even express, because it allows me to express myself and just really get out that, extra energy in me, but also it's a form of expression. And I just, my respect that I have for my senseis, Jacob Bresler and Jennifer Silverstein and Spice Williams Crosby, and just all the people that have been key people in my life and teaching me stuff, and Mel Novak, thank you to him. It's been phenomenal what I've learned and learned about myself. I learned a lot of self-discipline through a lot of life experiences and a lot of pain. And, now I've come through this newfound passion and love for it, and taking the Krav Maga and then a little bit of Wing Chun, Muay Thai, boxing. I'm also boxing. I have a new boxing coach, Nino Christiani, so thank you. And just loving it. And you know what? Just the energy I have is incredible. I could train for 10 hours a day. I'm no lie.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So many people come into the studio after being on the freeway all day long, and they're just worn out, but they end up leaving with more energy than when they came in.
Energized.
Yeah, it does. It's wonderful.
It's so amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about your invitational that you've been doing since 2005 for the kids. I just find this so incredible. And I just want to talk about it a little bit so we can share with everybody and find out how we can bring other kids involved, and when your next invitational is.
Great. It's been a wonderful experience. It kind of matured to what we're doing now. the first year we were invited to go up and do a demonstration at the kids' camp. And I really didn't know what it was about. And honestly, I had kind of a resentment when I found out it was all the way up in Lake Arrowhead. So I'm driving in traffic thinking, boy, I got to be careful what I agree to do and all of this sniveling and stuff like that. But what happened, I went up there and I got to see what the counselors do. Okay. And I was convicted. I go, boy, I'm complaining about this. These counselors are up here all week long with these kids. Yep. These kids, they're all 7 to 11. They're abused beyond anything that I could describe. They've been taken away from their biological parents because of the abuse. And it's just terrible stories, but then heartwarming stories too, when you get to see, as an example, on Monday, they cry all the way there. On Friday, they cry all the way back because they don't want to leave.
I bet.
Yeah, it's been remarkable. So we went up there for the first year. Second year, we were invited back. And on the way back, one of our black belts suggested we do a tournament. And I said, well, I've thrown tournaments forever. I started in 1973 or 74. And I go, I'm not really interested unless we do one for charity. And still not thinking of Royal Family. So I got home and I mentioned that to my wife. And she goes, well, why don't we just do it for Royal Families? That's the name of our group. And I said, that's a great idea. So we threw the tournament thinking we'll raise $500 or $600 for kids. And the first year we raised $12,000. Next year, $24,000. Next year, $48,000. Next year, we're in the $100,000s, and now we've raised over $1 million.
That is remarkable.
It's just a great thing, and it's not just my wife and myself. We have a team of people, and they're actually the Kempo community. Another guest you had somewhat recently, I think Benny Urquides, comes every year and helps out and helps us raise funds by doing a seminar. And
Benny the Jet.
Yeah, this year, as one of our auction items, we had the guitar from one of the famous groups in the area that Benny works with. Okay. I think Guns N' Roses was the guy.
Oh, wow.
And it raised, thousands of dollars. But it's things like that when people come together and contribute. Now we're really international. We have money coming in from the Netherlands. One of my very closest friends has 3,000 students in Ireland. His name is Eddie Downey, and he raises thousands of dollars every year for Royal Family Kids Camp. So it's, like I said, more of a community now, and it's so great to see the community come together to help.
That is beautiful.
So our next one will be in March.
Okay.
Even though the money that we raise goes to a camp that will be going on this next week. And my wife is a camp nurse, and she has been now for, I think this is going on 11 years.
Yeah.
But she goes up there, leaves on a Sunday, and it just gets worn out because she doesn't hardly get any sleep. These kids they recognize that what they need to do to get attention sometimes because they haven't had any. Some of these kids have never even had a birthday present or a party. So, I mean, it's sad, but what's great, we've been doing it long enough that we've seen kids that were campers come back years later as counselors because they've turned their life around, found out that there was a God, and they found out to put their faith in God. And as a result, they have direction. And they come back later on and help other kids. And that's just wonderful.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's been a great thing.
Thank you for what you do. And if you need any kind of help or support, we extend our offer to you. And I would love to be part of that. Thank you. And just, anything that we can do to help kids and, especially being in these situations and seeing them come out, a brighter, better person, and also being able to have hope and faith that things are going to get better and know that they're loved. They may not, have that love and attention from their biological parents, but having the love and affection and attention from you and your family. And
it's great to see. When I was in the hospital, the first thing I had was a Whipple surgery. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's a terrible, terrible surgery. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Okay. But the Royal Family Kids sent over a prayer blanket, and it just, made me get emotional. Aww. And it was a tremendous thing. So my daughter, who just moved actually to Arizona, just got her master's in marriage and family counseling.
Oh,
But she
wow.
was working with a lot of royal family kids
Okay.
that are in their mentoring program.
Okay.
And so she's gets a chance to work with them after they somewhat graduate after 11. So they're like 12-year-old seasoned veterans.
I love
But
that.
she does that work, and it's an ongoing process. The camp started off in Newport Mesa, right across from the Orange County Fairgrounds.
Okay.
And now there's probably 250 camps around the world. In fact, we started our own camp down in Chile. We gave them like
Wow.
$10,000, which goes a lot. It goes a long way down in Chile. So they started, and now they have like 12 camps.
Okay.
So it really, unfortunately, child abuse is all around the world.
It is. It is. Well, you were doing amazing things, so thank you for that.
Well, it's really has been my pleasure, but you're welcome. It's been. I was asked recently how you stay sober after you quit drinking, and you stay sober by being in service.
Absolutely.
And every time things are starting to go upside down in your own life, think about what you can do for somebody else. And
Absolutely.
we have a built-in method of being in service, not only to our own students, but to royal family kids or people in our community that are maybe having health issues. So we do a lot. And the reason we do a lot is because we want to help, but at the same time, it just does so much for us.
So rewarding.
It is.
And people don't realize that. And that's the thing. And that's why I tell people, just get out there and just do anything and be a part of life and get in there and suit up and show up. That's the biggest thing. Some of my most profound and beautiful memories in life have been just going out there and being in Skid Row and being able to touch these people and give them a hug and hand them a fresh pair of socks or hand
Sure.
them a bottle of water and just say, you know what, you're loved and God bless you.
Yeah.
And, that connection that we've lost so much, and that human connection with other people, touch, sight, just looking into somebody's eyes, making eye contact. I had this experience with this woman this recent Mother's Day. We were down at Skid Row with Rockin' Socks, which is a charity that we do, and we go hand out socks and water and blankets and whatever we need to the people on Skid Row. And this one lady had 5 of her kids there and her husband, and they were all in a tent. And I mean, the streets are littered, and the streets are need a lot of work and a lot of love and a lot of attention. She came out of the tent and she just looked at me and she said. And she started to cry, and I started to cry. We said no words to each other. We said no words, and she just
the connection was there.
Yeah, and
That's
she
awesome.
she said to me after, we had to cry and we held each other, and she said, I don't know what pulled me out of my tent, but something pulled me out of my tent, and I knew that I was supposed to be out there, and I knew that I was either supposed to meet you or just supposed to be here right now. She goes, I don't even want anything from you.
That's tremendous.
And I still...
What a feeling.
Yeah.
You can't put a price tag on it.
No, those are priceless moments in life.
Yeah.
And if we can get out of ourselves for 1 second of every day just to do something nice, a random act of kindness for people, and not even share it with somebody, like just do a random act of kindness for other people and just see how your life will start to evolve and change.
Yes.
Once we get out of ourselves, because we get in our own way and we get stuck, and we get in these selfish behaviors and a lot of the egoic thinking, and as we know, the stinking thinking gets involved, and
Sure.
and if we just stop and slow down and see what other people need, because the thing that I've learned over my lifetime is that you have to give it away in order to keep it.
Well, and there's no question. One of the things I address in the book is we had done the work for royal families for years, and we had done some fundraisers at the school for people that had health issues. Never thinking that we would be in a position where people would do something for us. It never was our intention. It wasn't like eventually it'll be my turn. That was never a thought process. The idea of me getting cancer, I've been super healthy my entire life. But what happened when I got sick, like I said, it was a solid year. When I got sick, these unsolicited acts of kindness from around the world to generate prayer, to generate good wishes, food being brought over, visits to the hospital, and fundraising was amazing. We'd never imagined. There was big fundraisers in Ireland, just all over the United States, tournaments. They ended up raising, I don't know, well over $80,000 for us. And it was something, first of all, your ego, you don't want to accept that. And then as it became longer and longer, we were away from the studio, it was life-saving. Because without that, it would have depleted our equity in our home or, our life savings, and it would have put us in this gigantic hole. But because of these acts of kindness, it just was somebody threw us a life raft, and we had no idea that would ever take place. So,
it's well earned, Bob, and deserved.
That was a wonderful thing to do. Barbara and I were just, thanking God, every night, and we still do.
Absolutely. And you have to. And, not everybody believes in God, and, they have their higher power or whatever they believe in, angels, spirit guides. And, but always just to have something of hope, a bigger, stronger meaning, because there's obviously something bigger than us out there. And we have to, living in gratitude, no matter what we are faced with, the adversity, the diseases, illnesses, death. We're always going to face it because it's part of life, unfortunately. It's just really in our attitudes and how we push forward.
I believe that as well, because I've lived both ways.
Yeah,
and I know which one causes discomfort, which one causes pain, and what gives you peace, and that's that acceptance that there is something bigger than you in control.
Absolutely. And it takes a little bit of pressure off too. So for those who don't, because some days I'm like, you know what, I'm just giving it up to you, and I don't even want this. I'm not doing this right now. I'm just taking, I surrender. Full control is to you, and I'm getting out of the way. Yeah. And, that's when the blessings come in.
I felt that same way with my sponsor calls it just like pancakes. You got to turn them over, and totally. That's what we were doing here. We just were turning it over, and it's certainly, I don't know your experience with me. I'll have these great moments of clarity and then peace. And then the next day I want to grab the steering wheel back and think I'm in control.
Absolutely.
And then you're uncomfortable, and you're not, you're not, you don't have direction. But then that's why the people that you spend your time with are so important.
Oh, amazing. What we feed our minds full of, and having those people around you. I prayed for, it's been interesting actually, my experience in the last of this year my prayers have been very specific, because when I'm not specific, I get a lot of pain because I'm not clear and concise on what I'm looking for and my blessings. So when I pray now, I pray for the people that aren't supposed to be in my life, that are unhealthy, body, mind, and spirit, to be removed from my life. So now when people are removed from my life, I say thank you, because I see it clearer now, because I understand, because I'm praying for it, because I only want to be surrounded by people that are going to uplift me, and I can uplift them. And it's a reciprocal thing, because I want to grow and I want to elevate, and I want to grow and elevate other people.
Yep.
And so now it's like, oh yeah, okay, I recognize that. Okay, so this is clearing a path out of the way for something bigger and better to come in. Yep. And so when that clarity comes in, you have to be willing to thank, whatever you believe in, and say thank you, and be grateful. Living in gratitude has saved my life, literally.
Nice.
Living in gratitude not every day. You know what? I do live in gratitude every day, but it's not as always like 100%. And some days it's like 2%.
Sure,
and but as long as you're making an effort, it's like anything we do: karate, your job, your relationships, your friendships, your being a parent, all these things. If we're just applying a little bit and making an effort, it goes a long, long way. And, I count my blessings now, because I know what it was like to live in the suffering and the struggle. And so that's why people always go, why are you always so positive? And, you're like, nothing affects you. And it's like, no, that's actually not true. A lot of things affect me.
Yeah.
It's the way I handle them, because I know that it's out of my control. And when I try to control it, that's when problems start happening. Yeah. So, we live and learn, and we go through it. It's not great every day, but... Well,
exactly. What is Charles Swindoll? Have you ever seen his thing on Attitude? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's only, what is it? It's not 90% of what happens to you. It's the 10% on how you deal with it. Or it's 10% of how you deal with the adversity.
And your attitude,
Yeah, and who you spend your time with.
That is so important.
Yeah.
There was one of the things off of a meme off Facebook the other day, and it was like 10 things, that are most important to you. And I think number one was who you spend your time with, if you're disciplined, all these different things. And it was hard to pick out of the 10. But then I realized after I thought about it, I thought, staying hungry in life and 10 rules of success it was. And then I realized it was who you're spending your time with.
Sure.
Because anytime I spend time with people that I know I shouldn't, and we know because that intuition kicks in, and, some have stronger intuition than others. My intuition kicks in and then I go, oh yeah, I wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to be here and I wasn't supposed to be in that person's presence, but it's okay. Now I got another lesson. Another tool in the toolbox, and you just keep moving forward.
Yeah, they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with.
Yes. When I thought about that, that scares me sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, in the past it did.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your book.
Great.
So when did this book, Life in Session?
Yes.
So tell me how you came up with the book title. I love this.
Well,
I know it has meaning behind it.
Yeah, my wife addresses that in the foreword. And what it is throughout the years when confronted with some adversity, some problem, there was an acceptance that had to take place, and it is life's in session. It's like the book Road Less Traveled.
Yeah. First
line in the book is life is difficult. And it is, and like we just talked about, how you deal with it. And so life in session is a term that I use quite often. What we wanted to do is we wanted it to be a book about service.
Okay.
And how much we hoped that the stories in there with the alcoholism and confronting the cancer and dealing with that would be something that gave other people strength and hope. And I've gotten some great feedback already from people that have dealt with alcoholism or illness in their family, and just some great lessons so far. So that was the purpose. We started doing it right about at the first of the year.
Okay.
And then it probably took, I guess about 5.5 months to put together.
Okay.
Now, Tom Bleecker, who also did Benny's story, was my co-author.
Okay. Tom Bleecker, is it?
Tom Bleecker. Yeah, remarkable man. He's a Kempo black belt. It was always been a good friend. But we had a lot of things in common.
Yes.
And so, besides martial arts, but him being the co-author was great because he knew exactly where I was coming from.
Okay.
And we really worked well together.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a smooth process.
Okay.
Even right from the beginning, he'd come over, and in some cases, we'd work 12 hours in one day.
Wow.
Just doing interviews, and he taped everything.
Yeah.
And so I was very pleased with the way that it turned out.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a great process. But 28 years ago, the idea of me being an author would be something I wouldn't have thought was possible. It wasn't anything that was, athletics, playing competitive tennis or whatever the sport is. That I could picture, but being an author wasn't one of them. But
congratulations to you. I'm still working on, I'm not going to say I'm trying, I'm still working on writing my book. And it's, it's been on the shelf for a while, and life keeps happening, and no more excuses. So I keep meeting remarkable people like yourself and Chris Casamassa and Shauna Ferrigno and Tanya Brown and all my friends that have written so many books, and Jesse Sink, he just came out with his book. You guys got to check that out. It's a remarkable story as well. But just so I'm really pushing forward to finish my book. So thank you for motivating me and inspiring me to do that, because it's something I really, really want to do, just to piece things together and fill people in the story of my life.
Great.
Yeah, so that's next on the list.
All right, outstanding.
Thank you. Where do we find your book?
Well, a couple places on Amazon.
Okay.
You can, or our website, which is www.bw, by initials, kenpo.com.
Okay, perfect.
And it's there. And Dr. Amen, who wrote to the front, he's written like 40 books.
Wow.
And he's a New York Times best-selling author. And his wife, who I had a private with yesterday, she's also a Kempo black belt from our school, one of my students.
Wow.
But she's written, I think, now about 10 books herself.
Okay.
So those are people I spend time with. So that was a motivating factor to get busy
I love it.
Yeah, less talking and more action. So.
See, you just heard it. That was actually him talking to me. I heard it.
All right, Tracy,
I love
good.
it. Okay, how do you become a 10th degree black belt? How does this happen?
Well, for 20 years, I declined to be promoted. When Ed Parker died, there was a limited amount of people that had been promoted to 7th degree by him. I was one of those people. Since he died in 1990, and probably at about 94, we formed the American Kempo Senior Council.
Okay.
And through that, I was promoted to a 9th degree.
Okay.
Now, throughout the years, I've had many different situations where people asked me to move up to 10th. And I said, I'm not interested. And then pretty soon there was like 400 people wearing the 10th degree. And I said, it's not a club I want to belong to, because I didn't feel that in many cases the people had the credentials to be promoted to that rank. So I didn't want to do it. But what happened is many of the people that I have the most respect for in Kempo, people that are my peers, my good friends, they came together at our event in March and endorsed my promotion to 10th degree. There's a whole section on the book in there.
I'm excited.
And Tom Bleeker was really instrumental in that as well. He started talking about, would John Wooden ever put less than his best team up in a game? And I said, well, no, that wouldn't be the case. So he really helped inspire me to move up. Yeah. And and I mentioned in a DVD that we did, I never prayed for a 10th degree. I prayed for the wisdom to make the right decision if I would accept it. My wife and I both prayed on it quite a bit. And we were both against it for so long, but we made a decision. And now that the decision's made, I have the belt. Now I have to do my best to deserve it and earn it and hold myself to a higher standard and try to set an example that Ed Parker would be proud of, my students would be proud of, my children would be proud of, so that I wouldn't do or act in any way that would be an embarrassment to the ring.
I cannot see that happening, and I want to say the utmost, congratulations to you, because that is absolutely remarkable. I don't know if I've ever met. I'm pretty sure I've never met somebody with a 10th degree black belt before. So what an honor. And I want to know, is there still hope for me to learn Kempo karate? And
Well, you certainly are an athlete. You could tell that, and in great shape. So
thank you.
There's, I don't think you have any limitations.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I don't think I do either. So no. It's about knowing that you don't have limitations. That's the key thing too.
Correct.
And again, it's interesting as you go through life, when you go through, I find when you go through a lot of things and changes, you become fearless in a way, and you just want to keep learning and growing so much that, I want to learn all styles of martial arts just so I know that I have these skills. And I'm not sure which ones I'm going to love more than the other, because now I've tried a few and I love them all. So
yeah, it's a tremendous a lifestyle, if you would.
Is.
I mean, you learn so much about the arts, but you also learn so much about yourself.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you guys have not tried it, and that's the thing too, people are always like, why do you want to fight so much? And I laugh because it's not about fighting. It's not about fighting for me. It's about exploring and experiencing and feeling and being able to be heightened in so many different areas of my life in such a way that I can expand and learn about myself. And so the fighting, I don't even really look at it as fighting. Yes. I just look at it as an art and a skill and a way of life.
Yes. Well, so many professional athletes are getting involved. For 5 years, I used to work for the Los Angeles Rams at Rams camp.
Oh, wow, okay.
And in fact, some of the players are still, even though they're retired from the NFL, they're still my students and friends. And originally I was hired by Garrett Guimon, who was their strength and conditioning coach, because he just wanted to develop the physical skills of developing the weak side of the body because, as you know, in martial arts, you're using everything.
Oh, yeah.
So we did a lot of left side work and left side flexibility. And so, there's the physical and the mental attributes are so many.
Yes.
That a lot of the pro athletes are leaning in that direction.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm actually the secretary and the Southern California chapter for the NFL alumni.
Nice.
We just had an event in Fantasy Springs. Shout out to Carrie Downs at Fantasy Springs. It was phenomenal. And we just had a great time. We had a lot of the NFL former players come out, and we just had a really great time. But, it's so nice to see these guys are in shape still, and these guys working out. And, at any age, and that's what we proved too, at any age we can have this. We just had a lady drive us, and 68 years old. She works out 4 to 5 times a week and looks phenomenal. I thought she was in her early 40s.
Wow.
So, having this as health and fitness and health and wellness and exercise is just a phenomenal thing. I did a training session this morning with one of my senseis, Jennifer Silverstein. She's an amazing woman. And it's funny what you said about using everything because it's like you'd think I'd never danced before in my life because I have 2 left feet when I'm doing like side kicks and stuff. So we're doing side kicks and I just can't get the feet to work together. So I was like, how can I not do this? And I was getting frustrated at first. And then she just was like, relax, just take your time, breathe through it, and like you do exercise. And when I applied that principle and that philosophy of what I know, because I've been doing it for decades, exercising, I thought about it and it made sense. So connect together, sweep, come up and kick.
Great.
And then come back down, plant and ground your body so that you're stable. And it just, when you start to make sense of it, it's a better understanding.
Good coaching can take you places.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they say a coach is. A coach takes you from an existing state to a desired state. And a good coach has the tools to get you there.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yes, that is. That's amazing.
Was Mel Owens there when you did the retired NFL players? Was he one of the people that was Mel Owens?
Oh, Mel. No. Doki Williams. We had Leroy Irvin. Who else do we have there? John Brown. Brett Miller. There were some good, there were some great guys there and just amazing people. We've got James Washington, who's the new president of the NFL alumni in Southern California, and Mike Sherrard, he's our treasurer. But we just have fun, and getting out there doing some golf and keeping in shape and just, of course I'm giving them all my nutrition chips and stuff. They're like, how do you be all buff and be strong and stuff? I'm like, come on, you guys. And it was good to go, they were out there and they're just,
awesome.
living life and loving life and continuing to live and love life. So tell me, how is your health now?
It's great. I'm getting stronger.
Good.
It's been a process. I lost at one point 50 pounds.
Aww.
And now I've got about 30 of it back.
Okay.
So I'm feeling good. I'm going to the gym consistently.
Excellent.
My wife is as in good a shape as anybody that I know. It's one of the things that I got so much respect for. She trains, like a lot of times people will train seasonally. She trains every day if she could and religiously. She's just in unbelievable shape.
Wow.
She had a torn ACL, completely torn, couldn't have surgery, but worked her way through doing slow motion kicks to develop the injury. And now she'll do 3 miles or 4 miles on the treadmill before she starts working out.
Wow.
I mean, I really have a lot of respect for how she approaches her martial arts. She's a 5th degree and just studies passionately. That's where she's at right now. She's at the studio teaching classes.
I love it. I can't wait to meet her.
A remarkable person.
That's amazing. What's that? Yes,
Yes,
open
I hope
house
you
coming
can.
up as well. So the end of the month, so it'll be on June 30th.
June 30th,
Okay.
we'll have demonstrations, book signings, and a belt promotion. There's a friend of mine that we tested together for our black belts.
Okay.
He's been studying since 64, like me, and he'll be promoted to 9th degree that day. There's Bob
Very
Mitchell.
nice.
I know Dan knows who he is,
Bob
but
Mitchell.
he's
Okay,
a
congratulations.
remarkable fighter. We fought together for years. So
Amazing.
He's
That'll be great.
he does a big function every year, Martial Arts for Christ. And he
Okay.
has demonstration, which Benny's been there many times, and a lot of the people in the martial arts industry have a lot of respect for him.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Benny is amazing. So I'd like to ask you, what are some of the tools that you used in order to get through your cancer?
Well, accepting the idea that I'm not in charge. And that was a hard thing.
Yeah.
And that I wasn't going to be able to heal or be treated at the pace that I wanted. That it was pretty much, I had to accept, and I still had a hard time with that because I've always healed fast.
Yep.
Next month, July 6th, will be the 1 year anniversary, I guess you would, of the end of my radiation treatment.
Okay.
But I still have effects. My throat is not clear. I have kind of a gravelly voice that I didn't have before.
Okay.
Strength is still down, but improving constantly because I really am monitoring my reps.
Yeah.
I'm up. The first surgery, and it was really kind of a not off subject, but I had a lymph node that was swollen.
Okay.
And I went in and had the lymph node looked at, and after a couple months, it was determined that it was cancer. Because of this cancer, they took a PET scan, and they discovered that I also had pancreatic cancer. If it wasn't for this, they wouldn't have discovered this until it was too late.
Wow.
So it really was a gift, the first cancer. It didn't feel like it at the time,
Yes.
but it was a gift because it allowed the other one to be discovered. The first one was treated with the Whipple surgery, which was very complex, 6-hour surgery in the hospital for 22 days, 21 days, something like that. And then after that, got out, got my strength back a little bit, and then they started the chemo and the radiation. But to get through it, one, great influence from my wife. As an example, when the radiation and chemo, I was dreading because I heard all the side effects.
Yep.
And her ability to reframe it, to say, well, look at it this way. That's when the healing starts. Instead of, dreading this process, just remember these are all steps toward getting cancer free.
Wow.
And it was, that the way you look at things matters so much. I also had another coach, a very well-known coach, worked directly under Billie Jean King in the World Team Tennis. His name was Jim Haley. And Jim Haley is a certified instructor for NLP.
Yep.
And he's a life coach. He started off as my tennis coach for years, then got an education in NLP and became this life coach. He's very effective, very powerful coach. And he was visiting me often. And he's also does hypnosis and all these other things that got me to this state that was more comfortable.
And I want to share with people, NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's, again, having, in a way, shaping and reframing, like you said, just reprogramming our thoughts in a different way and restructuring them. And if you can get around people that know NLP and learn it yourself, it is a phenomenal tool and technique. It absolutely does. And hypnotherapy as well.
Yeah, it does.
The visualization, I was sharing a story with someone the other day and visualizing things differently than what, basically, instead of coming from a fearful place, coming from, as your wife, guided you through that, not looking at things fearfully. I'll give you an example. I used to be terrified to go on stage to compete when I did my fitness shows. And I got so nervous. And I just had this adrenaline dump when I get to the front of the stage, but I wasn't actually nervous. I just had so much extra energy and I couldn't figure out what was going on for me. So then I realized what was happening is I was having this adrenaline dump because I really didn't know what to expect out there. So I started to visualize who was in the audience, what it felt like, what it smelled like, all these things, and what it looked like. So I would go in and look at the stage and look at the audience with nobody in it and visualize people in there and hearing voices and loud and heightened and the lights. And as soon as I started doing that with my hypnotherapist, I started prancing out on that stage like no one's business.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And it was just like, wow, this works. But it's just changing and reprogramming the mind because, we play the tape through in a certain way and we can change that tape. And I love NLP. I think it's phenomenal.
I do too. He took me from At the age of 40, I had stopped competing in karate tournaments, and I started playing tennis. I started late in the ball game, but I really wanted to compete. And he had me in my first tournament. I ended up winning, which I didn't really necessarily wasn't prepared to do, but because of the NLP training, we changed everything. Big
love
difference.
That. Amazing. And who is that gentleman?
His name is Jim Haley.
Okay.
He has an office in Newport Beach and works with a lot of different athletes.
Yeah.
He's worked with some MMA people, some NFL players, and it's just worked wonders. Yeah. We've had many of our people at our studio in preparation for their black belt test will go spend some time with him because he has that ability to get them in a different place.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we only have a few minutes left, Bob, I would like to know what are the 3 things in your life that are the most significant to you to live a successful life on a daily basis?
That's easy. I write it down all the time.
I love it.
God, family, friends.
Okay. If you were to say 2 more things, what would they be? Because 5 is my favorite number.
Service more than anything, and then be true to yourself. You know, I think that saying in the recovery programs, but to thine own self be true.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think if you can feel comfortable looking in the mirror at who you are as a person and do a daily inventory on your actions and your words and be pleased with what is played back, then I think it helps make you a better person and help shape your life.
I love that. If you could say one thing to your younger self, what would it be?
Probably get rid of the ego, because ego is the basis for most of my problems. You know, they say ego is an acronym for edging God out, but it's also, I love this one, it's the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, I love
ego
that.
problems have caused me a lot of discomfort throughout the years and a lot of feelings that weren't necessary. They were self-imposed.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. And, you know, stripping off that armor that we have on, that false armor, and putting on the God armor, and you know, just again, living in the light and the spirit and being able to be of service to other people, and, you know, just each and every day, and living in gratitude. And you definitely live in that. I mean, you've had some, you know, hardships, and it's just, you've had a attitude of gratitude, and you've gone through it. And it's just such an honor and pleasure to be with you. And
thank you. I certainly enjoyed being here.
Yeah.
Enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you so much. And tell us where we find you on social media and where we can find you on your website again, please.
I have a couple different Facebook pages. I have Living a Life of Service.
Okay.
I have Bob White's Karate Studio, and I have my personal website, Bob White.
Okay.
So I'm easily reached on Facebook.
Okay.
And then, of course, our website where we have the books is at bwkenpo.com.
Perfect. And then we have the invitational coming up. So I definitely, again, I would love to be part of that in any way if
Wonderful.
I can help. And thank you for all that you do. And congratulations on all your success. And I'll pray for you and keeping healthy, and, you know, and
Thank you.
Going on in life, and just being the best you can possibly be. You're an example of that. Yeah.
We're all examples of something. So I'm glad you could say that. All right, we're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I know it's this. I don't want to get it wrong, especially with you in my presence.
Knowledge over power, left over right.
Left over right. You guys, thank you so much for being here today with 10th degree black belt Grandmaster Bob White. Check him out on Facebook. Go out and grab the book and be inspired daily. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you again to Bob White for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week on Hollywood Vibes, Sports and Life, and the Power of Voices.